Have you guys ever thought about death? I've been thinking a lot about death recently. It's a very depressing topic, but I mean, it is something that I've been thinking about. Thinking a lot about death lately, and it's depressing. It's a very depressing topic. I understand, but it is something that I do think about every day. Death is, to use the term of Firhas Zahabi, death is the elephant in the room. That's what Firhas Zahabi said. Death is the elephant in the room. And it's just this one thing that's there. We can be super happy in life, and we can have it figured out, or we can think that we have it figured out, and then all of a sudden the reality of death just it's right there on your head, right there. And I saw death for the first time, the first and only time, when I saw my grandmother pass away. She was on her deathbed. Now, she was 89 years old. She had lived a long life. And she was dying. She was 89 years old, and she was dying. And I'll never forget it. It was 7 something in the morning, or it was either 7 something in the morning or very close to 7 in the morning. And I was watching. I was the only one in the room watching her, because the way it worked was that my parents would watch her all day, and then I would watch her all night. That's how it worked. So I would watch her all day or all night, and I did that for a couple of weeks before she passed away. I did that for 2 weeks until she passed away. And I was sitting on the couch watching her, and she was in this, it was very strange. She was in this deep, deep sleep. And she was breathing as if she was sleeping. So it looked like she was just sleeping. But what made this night different from the others was that you couldn't wake her up. So she's breathing, and when you saw her, it looked like she was sleeping, and she was in this deep, deep sleep. And I remember trying to wake her up, and she just wouldn't wake up. And that went on for hours. I mean, she just wouldn't wake up. So I just thought maybe she's just in a super deep sleep. And I knew at that point that it was only a matter of time. It was at any moment that she was just going to give up the ghost. And oh man, I remember I was checking her blood pressure. I checked her not her blood pressure. I checked her oxygen levels numerous times throughout the night, and her oxygen levels were just dropping. They were just dropping. They dropped to, oh man, they dropped to like 40 something, which is dangerously low, 40 or 50 something. And then I I put the oxygen mask on her and brought her oxygen levels back up to normal. And then as soon as I would take the mask off, her oxygen levels would just drop right down to a dangerous level. So throughout the night, I was just giving her oxygen, and in watching her oxygen levels drop and then come back and drop and come back and drop and come back. And I just knew it was a matter of time. I just knew at any moment she was going to pass. And I remember sitting at the couch, and there came a point where her oxygen levels went back up to normal and didn't drop. So at that point, which was around 6 something in the morning, this is after hours of constantly checking her oxygen, giving her oxygen, checking her oxygen, giving her oxygen. Finally got her oxygen levels to the point where it was at a normal level without having to give her the oxygen mask. I forgot the scientific term for the mechanism that you use to give them oxygen. And I just sat on the couch, and I remember I was watching a Jay Dyer video. I was watching this Jay Dyer video, I remember. And I was watching this Jay Dyer video, and Jay Dyer was making fun of who's that Catholic guy? What's his name? Brad Fad. What's his name? Who's that Catholic guy who smokes cigars? What's his name? Pints with Aquinas guy. What's his name? Brat. Brad Fad. Can someone help me out with this? I was watching Jay Dyer making fun of Pints with Aquinas. Matt Fradd. He was making fun of Matt Fradd. And I was watching Jay Dyer making fun of Matt Fradd. And I was just watching Jay Dyer. And Jay Dyer was saying some funny ass shit about Matt Fradd. It was so funny. Matt Fradd was doing this interview, and Matt Fradd said Matt Fradd was smoking a cigar in Rome. He was smoking a cigar in Rome, interviewing someone. It looked like they were in Vatican City somewhere, and he's smoking a cigar. He's smoking a cigar. And I think someone in chat brought up, hey, he's smoking a cigar in the Vatican or something, at Vatican City or something. And Jay Dyer said, smoking a cigar in the Vatican in Rome? That sounds like Skittles. And I just cracked up laughing so hard. I remember I was watching Jay Dyer, and I knew that death was right at the door. I mean, it was just right at the door. Death was nigh. It was just knocking at the door. And I was witnessing it. And then as I was watching Jay Dyer, all of a sudden I hear this super loud, it was just this super loud kind of wail from my grandma. Oh, what was the noise? It was just a loud kind of wail that came out of her mouth, I remember. Like a groan. But it lasted only for a few seconds. And I looked up and I saw my grandmother, and then she gave one last breath. She gave this one last breath. Oh, she gave this last breath, and then she stopped. I remember. And I called up my dad and I said, Dad, she's not breathing. And he says, I'm coming over right now. And after I hung up the phone, a few seconds after I hung up the phone, my grandma gives off one last breath. And that was it. She was gone. That was death, man. I saw it right there. It was actually a very surreal experience for me. It was a very surreal experience for me. The death rattle. Yeah, it's death. There's so many things in this life to enjoy. You know, there's so many things in this life to cherish and to enjoy. There's great food. There's great company. There's great music. There's great nature, landscapes, mountains, gardens. There's animals. There's so many things to find joy in this life. And in moments, and maybe this is just anxiety, I don't know what it is, but every time I find myself being completely at peace with life, every time I find myself just enjoying life and living in the moment, my brain will say death is nigh. It's such an annoying thing that happens in my mind, but it's something that I've been living with since forever. But there's always that moment where my mind will say death is at the door. And I remember a number of years ago, I believed that I had a hernia. And I had this numb pain. It was this numb but very slight pain on the side of my body, on the right side of my rib cage. And I really believed that I had a hernia. I really believed that I had a hernia, and I wanted to see a doctor. And I remember looking into Google. Now, when you search any sort of symptom on Google, you always get the worst case scenario. Usually, they'll give you the worst case scenario. And I went online and I typed in numb pain coming from the side of body. And the one of the first things that I get as a Google search result was, you might have a tumor. So at first I thought it's a hernia. And now I'm thinking, oh my God, I have a tumor. So I told my parents, I said, I think I really need to see a doctor. And my dad says, you shouldn't worry about it. And I said, no, I need to see a doctor. So I went and I saw a doctor. And I said, I don't know, I think I have a hernia, or it could be something worse. I'm not sure. Well, this doctor said, well, let me check you out. So he puts me through these tests and everything. And he says, you don't have a hernia. There's no hernia in your body. And I said, it could be a tumor. And he said, you don't have a tumor. I said, I don't have a tumor? He goes, you don't have a tumor. He said, believe me. He said, believe me, if you had a tumor, you would be experiencing a whole lot of pain and problems and all sorts of symptoms. You don't have a tumor. I said, well, what do you think the problem is? He says, more than likely, it's just that you tore a muscle from over-exercising. That's it. You were lifting weights, you did something with exercise, and you tore a muscle on your right rib cage. That's all you got. He said, you don't have a hernia, you don't have a tumor, you're fine. He said, in fact, Ted, I wouldn't stop exercising. Keep exercising. So I felt a sense of relief. But one thing that I got out of that experience was this feeling of realization of death. Because I really kind of felt that death was at the door. I got a tumor. I'm going to die, blah, blah, blah. And it was anxiety. But nonetheless, I really felt like that I could have been close to death. And so that feeling really, really got me. And I've had different experiences like that where I thought that I was going to die. And it turned out that I was completely fine. One time I had a little skin mark, and I thought it was skin cancer. Turned out that it was just a freckle that formed. One time, oh my gosh. If you guys ever eat beets will make you shit red. Okay, this is just a fact. I'm not saying this to be gross, but it's just a fact. When you eat beets, even a little bit, when you eat beets are so red you could make dye out of them. When you eat beets, or a lot of times when you eat red vegetables or fruits, sometimes you will actually shit red, and it looks like blood. And I've had multiple experiences like this, where I had beets, and I thought that I had colon cancer. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And then I'll think about it, and I say, oh no, I just had beets last night. Oh, okay, you're fine. I mean, I've had moments like that, but at those moments, I really believe that I'm gonna die. And it's just a crazy experience where you really believe that death is at the door, but then you start thinking, no matter what is happening, death is always at the door. Death is always at the door. It's always there. It's that elephant in the room. And so the struggle that I have, and this is the struggle I think that every human being who thinks about this stuff has, the struggle that I have is trying to find a balance between enjoying my life and being aware that death can come at any moment. And I've really been working on this. I really have been working on this, guys. Really been working on this. How do I just live my life, enjoy life as best as I can, live in the moment, but then at the same time understand that nothing lasts forever. And I think that that's a struggle that most of us have. I think most of us have that struggle. But it's something that I've really been facing. Theo is a bit hypochondriac. Yeah. I don't think I'm a hypochondriac. I don't think I've come to that point. But there have been moments where I thought, this is it. Last week I had beets, and then I thought the next day I told myself, this is it. I got some terrible disease, and then I had beets. Never mind. Fermented beets juice is so good. Drinking it pushes death far back. Yeah, that's what I've heard. I heard beets are super good for you. Death is frightening. It is. It's a very frightening thing to live your life, to invest so much into this life, and then be faced with the fact that it's all going to come to an end. I think that's but there I think the human mind is amazing in the sense that it has this wonderful ability to adapt. And the mind doesn't just have the ability to adapt to physical discomfort, but the mind also has the ability to adapt to mental discomfort and mental despair. And I think the mind, what the mind eventually does is it disassociates from despair or things that cause us despair. And so when we experience things that cause us despair, the mind will eventually say, we have to not care in order to be at peace. And we just stop caring about the things that once bothered us. It's time for some Theo beer. Thank the Lord for giving me so much time with my dad. That's right. And that's how you have to see it. You can either live in complete misery and despair, or you can just live with the fact that you're going to die. And how do we live with that fact? And that's the challenge. Living with that fact is the challenge, but it's not something that we cannot, it's not a challenge that we cannot overcome. It's a challenge that we can definitely overcome. It's a challenge that we can definitely overcome, but we have to work at it. And that's what I'm trying to do, is work at it. Just understand that nothing lasts forever. And that's it. That's it. Nothing lasts forever. And just disconnect from the despair that comes with life to the best of your ability. And that's that. And enjoy whatever here is left. I mean, enjoy what there is in this life. And understand that the soul is eternal and that we go on. Life is not the end. Death is a transition point from life to eternity. I just keep that in mind. Back pain is no joke. Even if it doesn't kill you, long-term pain can cause people to change. Yeah, I agree. I love this song.
Trae la brisa vieja de por la mañana. No hay nada aquí, solo unos días que se aprestan a pasar. Solo una tarde en que se puede respirar, un diminuto instante inmenso en el vivir, después mirar la realidad y nada más, y nada más. Ahora me parece que hubiera vivido caudal de siglos por después mirarnos. No hay nada aquí, solo unos días que se aprestan a pasar, solo una tarde en que se puede respirar, un diminuto instante inmenso en el vivir, después mirar la realidad y nada más.